All right, video number 4 for orthographic drawings. We have a new figure. There we go. Sorry, I was lagging a minute. We have a new figure that we're going to be completing. So I'm just going to kind of rotate it around. All right, so that's our 3D view of that figure. The reason why I'm setting it down like this is because this view is going to be our front view. And as a reminder, our front view always tells us the most information about our part. So I'm going to try to, not that you're probably, oh, we might be able to see it a little bit. I'm just going to put an F for front view. It's kind of hard to tell. Sorry, it's dark green. And then remember, if we flip that part up from our front view, then we know it's our top view. So I'm going to write a T on there. And coming back to our front view, if we flip it to the right, we know that this is going to be our right side view with an R. Right? So with your snapping cubes, again, I'm strongly going to recommend that you build these. We have 3 blocks. And then we have 2 blocks attached to the bottom block. So they're going to snap right in there. And then this last cube is going to go like so. All right. So use your snapping cubes and follow along with me. I'm going to set mine off to the side. All right. And what we need to go ahead and do is get started. So I'm going to move this up just a little bit more so that I have enough space down at the bottom here. Also going to move my camera. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to start down at the bottom. I'm going to use the same scale that I used for my yellow block for my green block. So I'm going to record that down at the very bottom just to make sure that I have enough room, because this part is taller than my yellow part that I demoed in video 3. All right, so I'm going to start down here from this corner, and I'm just going to go ahead and make my point. And I know I'm coming up 3 cubes. So again, 2 lines represent 1 cube. So I'm going to come up 6 lines. I'm going to make my point. And then we have 1 that we're going to come over to the left. We have 2 cubes that we're going to come down. So we're going to come down 4 different lines. We're going to come over 1 cube. We're going to come up 1 cube. And then we're going to come over 1 cube. And down 2 cubes. And once we come down 2 cubes, as long as you did everything correctly, those 2 lines should be able to be connected on that same horizontal plane. All right, so that is our front view. Again, I'm gonna get in the habit of labeling our views as we are learning how to do this. And the next thing that I want to go ahead and do is do our top view. So I'm gonna rotate this up to the top view. All right. And again, we need to transfer up our hard corners with construction lines. And what I want to do is leave a gap of 2. And since we have different levels of this front view, you always want to do the gap from the topmost point. All right, so from the total height of your object, you're going to start that gap. So I'm going to come up a gap of 2 from the highest point of my object, and I'm going to make my mark. Okay, so from here I'm going to follow this up, and even though there's more than 2 boxes for a gap, it's because that's not my highest point. This is my highest point. So this point you're going to transfer all the way over so that it's even with the width of your object. And I know that this is the width of my object. It's a nice solid line, so I'm going to connect those 2. Okay. And then I know my depth of my object is 1 across the board. So I'm going to come back 1 for my depth on both sides. And then I'm going to close that object because, again, we have a nice solid line for our width. Now the thing is, because we have 3 different levels, we have these hard corners or hard edges, all right? And those edges are represented, again, by these hard corners from the front view. So we're just going to transfer those up. And you would have a point here, and you would have a point here. So this line represents this hard edge, and this line represents that hard edge. All right. So again, we need to create that imaginary corner. So I'm going to move over my height of my object, and then we're going to create this imaginary corner, because if I come back to my front view, there's no corner here because my object is not square or rectangular. So I need to make that imaginary corner, kind of like we did here. All right, and that is for our orthographic projection line. We're going to transfer over the depth of my object, and I'm going to transfer it down to create that right side view. I'm going to transfer over my height, and then any hard corner. So we have a hard corner here. I'm going to transfer that over. I'm going to make a point. We also have a hard corner right here, or an edge. I'm sorry, a face, a flat face. All right, so we're going to transfer that over as well, make another point. And then the bottom of our object we're also going to transfer over, and we're going to make another point. Now, if I flip this, it just looks like we have 1, 2, and 3, right? So we have our overall height of 3 blocks. So I'm going to come down 1 block, 2 block, 3 block. I have, sorry about that. I have a width of 1. So I'm going to come over 1 from the top and the bottom, and then I'm going to come down my height of 3. All right, so that's the outline of my object, but now we have these shapes and edges in our front view. All right, so we have an empty pocket here. We haven't talked about that yet, so I'm going to do that second. But we do need to communicate this hard surface in our front view, which is here. All right, so if you flip it over to the right side view, you can see very distinctly that edge in your right side view is a hard surface. Okay, so we're going to make that an object line as well. Now, in order to communicate this cutout here, this is kind of invisible or hidden from our right side view, but it's still there, so we need to communicate it. All right, so that's why I created for this surface, I created this point in my right side view. But instead of creating it as an object line, remember, object lines are hard surfaces that you can actually see of your object, but you can't see this hidden feature in here. All right, so what do? We create what we call a hidden line. And a hidden line is simply a dashed line, and your hidden lines represent hidden features. And when we talk about the alphabet of lines in a few weeks, we'll get a little bit more into what hidden lines are and how we use them. But for now, that's all you need to know. Since we can't see that opening in the front view in your right side view, we need to create a hidden line for that part because that feature is still there. We just can't see that feature in the right side view. Again, get in the habit of labeling your views. And once again, I'm going to move my figure. You're going to come in with your pen, and you are going to outline all of the visible edges of your feature with pen. And again, these are called object lines. They're defining the edges of your object. And then we'll come in and do all of the horizontal lines. And don't worry if you can see pencil marks. Now, don't get in the habit, remember this is a hidden line, this is not an object line. So, your hidden line again is just a small dashed line. Make sure you get those dashes in there. And it's not a solid line, otherwise it will be wrong. And there are my 3 views. Now you're going to notice you can see some of the pencil marks. That's fine. If you want to erase them if they bother you, that's okay. I'm totally fine with that. But I do want you to keep these pencil marks for the construction lines that you use to help you guide your front, top, and right side views. Those are going to help me figure out what you're missing and kind of where we're going wrong if we are going wrong.